The $80,000 down payment on your house has a hidden price tag, exactly $1 million. In 25 years, your bank will mail you a letter to congratulate you on paying off your home. What they won't mail you is the second letter, the blueprint of how they used your money to build their wealth instead of yours. If you want to stop guessing and finally take control, you need to see the numbers. We are going to decode the exact math of two completely different financial realities. Both letters are about the same decision. They reach two completely different people. The strange part is that those two people started in the exact same place, same job, same savings, same $80,000 sitting in the same account on the same morning. Half of American families earning over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck, according to a January 2025 report from PIMS. A lot of them did everything right. They saved the down payment. They bought the house. They are the ones holding the first letter, wondering why the plan that was supposed to build their wealth left them feeling like they are running in place. So here are both letters. Every number is on the table, and I will show you where each one comes from. The first letter goes to a man we will call Mark. Mark bought a $400,000 house. He put 20% down, which is $80,000, exactly the number the rule told him to hit. He paid about $12,000 more in closing costs, the way everyone does. His mortgage was $320,000 at 6.5% on a 30-year fixed-rate loan. Mark's letter, the one the bank is happy to send, reads like a success story. After 25 years, his house growing at 3% a year, a conservative figure that economist Robert Shiller's long-run research suggests is close to what homes actually return above inflation, is worth around $837,000. He owes about $100,000 still. So, his equity, the number the bank prints in bold, is roughly $734,000. That is a real number. It is not nothing. Mark looks at it and feels like the plan worked. What the letter leaves out is the cost of getting there. Over those 25 years, Mark sent the bank around $390,000 in interest alone. Not principal, interest. Money that bought him the privilege of borrowing and bought him no equity at all. The letter does not mention it because the interest was never Mark's to keep. It was the product he was actually buying. And the interest is only the line you can see. Look at what Mark's first few years actually held. In year one of every payment he made, more than $17,000 went to interest, and barely $4,000 touched the principal. He was paying down a house at the speed of a glacier, while the bank collected the bulk up front. That is not an accident. That is how the loan is built. This is called mortgage amortization, and it is designed on purpose, so the lender is paid first, and you are paid last. Then there are the costs the brochure never lists. Property tax, every year, on the full value of the home, insurance that climbs whether or not anything ever happens, and maintenance, the quiet one. Financial planners call this the total cost of ownership, which runs about 1% of the home's value a year. That is $4,000 on a $400,000 house every year, on average. Some years it is a can of paint. Then one year it is the roof, and it is $18,000 in a single afternoon, the water heater that fails the week the baby comes home, the furnace that dies in the coldest month, because it always dies in the coldest month. None of it shows up in the mortgage payment, and all of it comes out of the same family's account. Now, the second letter, this one was supposed to go to a woman we will call Carla. Carla had the same $80,000 on the same morning. She had the same $12,000 that would have gone to closing costs. She made one different choice. She kept renting the same kind of place Mark bought for around $2,100 a month, and she put her $92,000 into a total stock market index fund, something like a VTI or a Fidelity 500 index fund tracking the whole American market. Then she did the part that matters, the part almost nobody mentions. Owning that house was going to cost Mark more than rent every single month. Not just the mortgage, but the tax, the insurance, and the endless small bleed of maintenance. Each month that Mark's ownership cost more than Carla's rent. Carla took the difference and invested that too. Not in something clever, not in something timed. The same index fund, the same automatic transfer, the first of every month for 25 years. Financial advisors call this dollar cost averaging, putting money in steadily regardless of what the market is doing, and it is one of the most reliable ways to build long-term wealth. The American stock market has returned about 10% a year on average over the last century, according to data going back to 1957, when the S&P 500 launched, or about 7% after adjusting for inflation. That is the figure Carla's money quietly compounded at while she was not watching. She did not check it daily. She did not move it when the news was bad. She let it sit, and compounding did the only thing compounding knows how to do. After 25 years, Carla's account holds around $1,700,000. Set the two letters side by side. Mark, who followed the rule, has $734,000 locked inside a house. Carla, who broke the rule, has $1,700,000 she can touch on any Tuesday afternoon. The gap between them is just under $1 million. Financial advisors call this opportunity cost, what the $80,000 would have become if it had been allowed to grow, instead of being pressed flat into a foundation. $1 million is an abstract number until you put it next to a life. It is the difference between working until 67 because you have to, and stopping at 55 because you can. It is the kid's tuition paid without a loan, or the kid's tuition borrowed against the house. Same two people, same starting morning. One decision, compounding silently in opposite directions for a quarter of a century. That gap is the price of the $80,000 down payment. Not the $80,000 itself. The $80,000 was always going to be spent one way or another. The price is what that money would have become if it had been allowed to grow instead of being pressed flat into a foundation and a front-loaded pile of interest. There is one more thing the first letter hides, and it is the part that turns a big gap into the whole story. Almost nobody actually holds one mortgage quietly for 30 years. Real families refinance. They pull up home equity line to redo the kitchen. They sell after 7 years and buy something bigger, and the clock on the front-loaded interest starts over from zero. Every one of those moves feels like progress, and every one of them triggers what's called an amortization reset. Mark goes back to the part of the loan where the bank takes the most, and he keeps the least. The plan does not just cost $1 million once. It quietly charges him again every time he thinks he is moving up. I want to be fair to Mark's letter because there is one true thing in it that Carla's does not have. A mortgage forces you to save. Every month, like it or not, a slice of Mark's payment built equity, and most people, left to their own discipline, would have spent Carla's monthly difference on nothing in particular and had no portfolio at all. The house is a blunt instrument, but it works on people who would not otherwise save a dime. That is the strongest case for buying, and it is a real one. And it is worth noting, if Carla had also kept a proper emergency fund in a high-yield savings account, separate from her index fund, she would have had the liquidity buffer that Mark's equity cannot easily provide, reinforcing why her path, done with discipline, is structurally stronger than it first appears. But notice what that argument actually admits. It does not say the house is the better investment, and it says the house is the better babysitter. It works because it removes the choice. And if you are the kind of person who can make the choice on purpose, who can rent the same place and move the difference into the market every month without fail, whether that is inside a Roth IRA, a 401k, or a plain brokerage account, then the math stops being close. It is not close. The reason you have only ever seen Mark's letter is simple. An entire industry is paid when Mark signs. The realtor, the lender, the title company, the insurer, the bank holding 25 years of his interest. Every one of them has a reason to mail the congratulations and frame the day he bought as the day he made it. Carla's letter has no sender. There is no company that profits from telling you to rent a modest place and quietly buy index funds for 2.5 decades. So the letter never gets written, and the rule that cost $1 million keeps getting passed down at every dinner table, like good advice. And it is passed down with the feeling attached, not just a number. Renting gets called throwing money away. Buying gets called grown-up, settled, responsible. Nobody runs the math on the feeling. They just repeat it because their parents repeated it in an economy that no longer exists at the prices we pay now. The people who bought in 1990 paid 3 times their income for a house and locked in a rate that fell for 30 years. The couple signing today pays 5 or 6 times their income and locks in at the top. The advice stayed the same. The arithmetic underneath it did not. None of this means you should never buy a house. A home is a place to raise your kids, not just a line on a balance sheet, and that is worth something no spreadsheet prints. If you buy the place you will stay in for 20 years, with your eyes open about what it truly costs, that can be a good life and a fine decision. What it cannot be is an accident. The 20% rule was handed to you without the second letter attached, and you were never shown the number on it. You have seen it now. The $80,000 was never the cost. What it could have become was. And if you want to know what happens with you when you hit your first $100,000 and how a simple decision can ruin everything, then watch this video next.